Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2017 career mode. We're back with part number 18 today for the Mexican Grand Prix, and you can see we're kicking things off with a sponsor bonus. The first time we've seen one of these sponsor bonuses pop up in my career mode in this game. 750 extra resource points added on for us for the good job we've done for the Toro Rosso team. So I would imagine maybe it's either Red Bull injecting that, or one of the other main sponsors of Toro Rosso. We don't really know, but it's just the sponsor is happy with what we're doing. So we get an injection of 750, which of course is quite a lot, because really generally most of the upgrades are 1,000, only the durability ones are 500, so that's quite a fair amount, and it does take us over a significant amount of points now to 1,000, nearly 800 points there, so we can start looking at maybe purchasing this upgrade. But you can see as I clicked it, I then read more closely to it, because we've left it till Mexico to do that. It would only come in at Australia, which would mean the beginning of Season 2, which I was like, hang on, that's just not worth it for me now. If it's going to come in for Season 2, I would rather just do two other upgrades then. If we can earn enough points later in this episode, we can do two different upgrades that cost 1,000 points. Because, of course, if we get enough points, we'll be on 2,000. So we're going to confirm the development of a second rear downforce upgrade, because following the USA Grand Prix, it was pretty clear that our car can sometimes lack a bit of, plantedness. That's not really a word, but anyway, I'm going to stick with it, in the rear end. So I thought I'd go with rear downforce. And if we can earn enough points in practice and from quali, we can upgrade another part of the R&D tree, and we'll have two at a go for next episode at the Brazilian Grand Prix. So that's how we're going to do things. So we're going to get straight into practice at Mexico.
Welcome to Mexico, where we start the weekend with Friday practice. This session will give us a good indication of just who has the upper hand for qualifying tomorrow. We can see, of course, plenty of activity in the garages as we wait for the green light to get this session underway. Anthony Davidson, thank you for joining me once again. What are you going to be looking out for once the cars get out there on the circuit today?
Well, naturally, in any free practice session, you can never be sure exactly what programs the teams are running, how much fuel they've put in, and so on. So it's important to resist the temptation to draw any firm conclusions from the fastest times on the monitor. What we can do, however, is look for consistent pace over the course of multiple laps. So if someone does half a Grand Prix distance and they're consistently half a second quicker than another driver doing the same, then that's generally a good indicator of a car with a solid race pace.
So barreling into practice, and it was very clear straight away from these opening laps around Mexico that this was going to be a tough Grand Prix. This track very much a compromise of how much downforce you want to run, because obviously it will counteract to the drag that you're going to have on the main straights. You can see coming across the line in style there for the track acclimatization, we did get the full 50 points, even though we did have that kind of big tank slapper into the wall at the end of the lap, which was quite funny. And then we did the tyre wear test, getting the average result for that. Unfortunately, didn't get the full points. Fuel saving was an easier affair, especially through that final corner in Mexico. If you got enough time on the delta time, just lift off through that final corner and you can easily get the full 50 for the fuel saving. Then we did the optimum race strategy, and we got the full 50 points for that as well, thankfully. And then coming through to qualifying, coming across the line, wasn't feeling too confident about it, but we do come across the line to get the full purple 50 points for that, which I was very surprised for, because as I mentioned, it was a compromise around here at Mexico with the setup. And going into quali, I still didn't think I was finding the right compromise for it. I went probably more towards the straight line speed rather than the all-out downforce here at Mexico, because just those back straights, it was too much of a long stretch to not go for lower downforce, just like Monza, because I just felt we would get really just swamped in a straight line. But you can see after practice, we did get enough points to then upgrade our car in the chassis department. So really nice to see we've got two at a go. And remember, we can only do that because of our core competency the development we've got there over the course of the season that allows us to do simultaneous upgrades there. So we'll have two hits of upgrades for the Brazilian Grand Prix, which will be absolutely awesome there. But anyway, let's get into qualifying and see how we do. It's going to be a tricky one for sure, but we'll try our best as always.
Not long now until the lights go green for the Mexico Grand Prix qualifying. So let's get ready and see who has that pole position winning performance in them this afternoon. I want to talk briefly about the strategy in these qualifying sessions. Anthony Davidson, how can a driver adjust their approach to gain those critical extra tenths of a second?
Well, qualifying isn't about adjusting your approach necessarily. It's more about trying to repeat a low fuel run that you've practiced prior to this session. You're looking for perfection on the lap, and that's hard to achieve if you're trying something new. There are some variables that can stand in your way, however. Track position or unexpected yellow flags, for example. Coupled with ever-changing track conditions, it's important to be out there at the right moment. But as a driver, you have to try and ignore these distractions and just keep your mind focused on that one perfect lap.
Right, cutting into qualifying right at the start of our break point for turn 1, because that main straight is so long that it's just awkward to kind of sit through it the entirety and commentate over that. So we're going straight into the first few turns. Pretty decent first few turns for us, opening DRS for the first sector. And generally this was going to be, for me, going into it, a tough qualifying session, because in practice, didn't feel too confident. The car was sliding all over the place, and as I said, I've gone for more lower downforce than maybe I would like in this main kind of first 2 sectors. But once we get to that back straight, it really is a killer if you are running anything higher than I would imagine even 6.6 would be kind of annoying. Obviously we do have the engine upgrades to counteract that, but still I wanted to go for even more, because if you remember back to Monza, our car was working so well with 4 full wings and using rich mix with the engine upgrades. It was working really well. We were catching Red Bull cars, we were even catching Force Indias in a straight line then, so that's what I was thinking back to. And really, if you look back at over this lap, through sector 2 actually, our car looked pretty planted actually through the entire S section. A little bit wayward in the final corner, you can see locking up, and that entire time I was finding it tricky through that final corner, but we come across the line and it's a pretty decent lap time there, up into P10 ahead of Romain Grosjean, behind Nico Hulkenberg though, which is surprising to see the Renault cars going so well here, obviously, because the Renault guys, I don't think they've upgraded their engines too well or too much this season. We end up in P12, unfortunately, so we drop down 2 places. Still get our objective, and we do out-qualify our teammate, but you can see pretty much not much between myself and Carlos, actually, in terms of compared to everyone else and how everyone else kind of filtered out. And so that's pretty much looking like where the car is in P12, P13 around here, which I would say is probably correct. I mean, we're just about beating one of the Renaults, one of the Haas cars, but we're getting out-qualified by the other counterparts of Grosjean and Hulkenberg. Good to see we also out-qualified one Force India. Ocon having a bit of a mare there as his teammate's up in 9th place and he's down in 16th. But once again, as you would imagine, the Williams car is going very well here. But I think it's going to be maybe probably more of a struggle in the race compared to how we qualified here. But you never know. There also may be some engine penalties as always towards the end of this season. So let's see how we line up for the grid and get into it.
And joining me amongst the cheers of the phenomenal Mexican fans, it's Anthony Davidson. And welcome along to this historic circuit. What an occasion this is.
Yeah, it's hard to believe when you see the passion this country has for the sport that Formula 1 was away from Mexico for so long. It's fantastic to be here, and let's hope that the race lives up to the party atmosphere we've got going. It's a real fast track, this. We get up to Monza levels of speed down the main straight thanks to the high altitude here at over 2,000 metres above sea level. And with that comes the challenge of having less downforce in the corners. So that makes it a really demanding circuit, both for the drivers and engineers.
Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Massa, Sergio Perez, and Grosjean, a Toro Rosso, Sainz, Magnussen, and Jolyon Palmer, Raikkonen, Van Dorn, Nico Hulkenberg, and Ericsson, Verstappen, Wehrlein, Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. Ocon and Daniel Ricciardo rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So getting onto the grid, and as I mentioned, we're going to get elevated here due to a lot of grid penalties. So it's going to be a 2-stop race today, 2 Ultra Softs and 1 set of Super Softs. We may change that round in terms of the order, but up to P7 now because of Raikkonen, both Red Bull cars having penalties, Nico Hulkenberg as well, and Lance Stroll. And so we're finding ourselves already in a very lofty height on the grid, on the starting grid, as well as our teammates. So here we go to 5 red lights for the Mexican Grand Prix, round number 18 of this season. 5 red lights are out, and we're underway there. And it's a bit of a poor one, to be honest. If we look at Romain Grosjean getting off the line very well indeed, and Sergio Perez as he's looking at the back of Lewis Hamilton. As you can see, it's a very long run to turn 1, so all of us slipstreaming each other. And it's 4 wide there between the Ferrari, Mercedes, Force India, and Haas, as Vettel tries to feed it around the outside to get back into maybe the lead of the Grand Prix. No, it's going to be Bottas that leads the way from, I think that's Felipe Massa in 2nd place. They're doing very well indeed. We just about navigate that okay. I think we got a hit in the back from Kevin Magnussen, so it's still in P7 though, so we haven't lost a place from our grid slot as Perez now tries to have a look round the the outside of Romain Grosjean, so this is going to be kind of nice just to sit back and watch, and these two are going to go side by side in this entire stadium section. Meanwhile, up ahead, Hamilton tries to chase down Vettel, but it's a good start there from Valtteri Bottas. You can see behind Kimi Raikkonen trying to make up a place going around the outside of our teammate Carlos Sainz. Meanwhile, we're still watching this battle between Perez and Grosjean, still burning away as Perez tries to just shake off Grosjean really through the S section. Eventually does do it, and we can see we're closing up to Grosjean quite massively as Perez has held him up quite a bit, and Magnussen equally tries to do the same to us. You can see Raikkonen going side by side with Magnussen down the inside as we go into the main heart, big stadium section here at the Mexican Grand Prix. But obviously this circuit actually quite surprisingly has two different kind of stadium-esque sections, but this really is a actual stadium there. Always kind of nice to go through, but we swing through the final corner. Always tricky, that we found it since qualifying and practice, but just about hanging it round, and we cut on later into turn one. You're going to see that quite often in this race, I think, just because that main straight's just so long. I'll probably just cut through all the way to turn one, because most of the time you're just kind of sitting there like you're going down the M25 or something like that. But now we're closing up on Grosjean into towards sector 2. Generally this corner is pretty good for me, but then when we start to go into these actual trickier corners, I'm losing quite a bit of time, because obviously I mentioned I think I'm running 4 wings here at Mexico, which isn't too bad. But as Anthony Davidson pointed out in the commentary for the cutscene, because we're so high up here at Mexico, the altitude, the air is so much thinner, so the cars naturally produce less downforce. So even though I've gone for a compromise here, it's really not helping me at this stage of the race. And as we move on to lap 3, Raikkonen is right up my chuff. He's gonna not have DRS, but just pure slipstream here from the Ferrari engine, obviously, versus the Renault power. Now down to turn 1, you can see I'm actually holding my own, but into turn 1 all race weekend long, I've not been too great on the brakes here into turn 1, spotting my brake zone. Raikkonen does get us under brakes, but to be honest, there's no point fighting, because he's going to eventually overtake all these cars. We can try and get a bit of slipstream basically from him, and with only 3 laps gone to the race, it's not like we're going to somehow manage to keep him behind the entire race, so may as well let him through. And we're going to go on to lap 9 now, so we've moved on 6 laps, and unfortunately for us, pretty boring 6 laps there, the opening stint of this race. Nothing really happened there, so we're going to come into the pits now along with one of the Williams cars of Felipe Massa, but pretty much Raikkonen, surprisingly, wasn't able to overtake Grosjean, and similarly Grosjean wasn't unable to overtake Perez, so all 4 of us were pretty much just kept in that same kind of train, very 2017-esque train from real life really, for those entire 6 laps, as we're also equalised with the dirty air in sector 2 and 3 at the end, in the middle part of it. Obviously towards the end it gets to that back straight. But we come out of the pits now onto a set of super soft tyres. So as I mentioned, we would swap around the order. So we're going ultra soft, super softs, then ultra softs. And you can see as we move on to the next lap, lap 11, we come out a lot closer to Grosjean. So the undercut has worked out really well in this first stint. We're going to go for a very late lunge and dive. I can see he's going a little bit slowly into the apex, obviously coming out of the pit lane. So he tap tyres there, a little bit of wheel banging, and we just about leave him enough room. He leaves us enough room on the inside curbing there, because really he could technically squeeze us out. And we've got rich mix now to use. We've got positive fuel, so we're going to try and make the move to the inside of the corner. It's going to be closed stuff. Very easy to lock up the tyre there into that corner. A lot of sliding was occurring in practice, and you can see Grosjean does get the racing line. I do try to do a half attempted switchback move, and we do get it down the inside with our nose, but he's going to have better traction. But then in the second phase of the straight, we get it round the outside. So close. Going to have to lift off leaving the room, and then we cut to this really awesome bird's eye view shot, and you can see how close this is in the S section between us. He gets the better line through that second phase, but we get much better exit off that corner. So we're going to try and dive it down the inside to this next right-hander as we enter the main heart of this stadium, locking up a little bit on the right tyre. We're going to shove him out a little bit, but he's kept his nose in there, and so this has been a real ding-dong battle all lap long with Grosjean from turn 1 to literally the last corner before we squeeze him out there. You can see he's still trying to nip it and see if he can get us on traction. Not going to work, but then as we swing onto the main straight, he's going to have the slipstream, so we duck to the right-hand side very aggressively to try and break the toe, and quite good for us. We can see Magnussen comes out. We go very close to his rear end there, just trying to get all the slipstream I can. And actually you can see there as we look behind us, it looked like, funnily enough, Grosjean got held up then by his teammate Magnussen, so that helped out quite a lot. That wasn't my plan. My plan was just to get slipstream off Magnussen and just be very kind of petty with the slipstream, but then it ended up actually working out as Grosjean kind of got held up by his own teammate there. So yeah, worked out very well. So we move on to lap 13 now, closing up to Pascal Wehrlein, who finds himself in a very lofty P9. obviously going long on this set of super soft tyres that I imagine he started the race on. So you can see just the lack of pace in the Sauber car. We're actually getting held up quite a bit here, so much through the final corner there. So this is going to help out Magnussen and Grosjean behind us on ultra soft. Magnussen is, and I think the same was, no, I think Grosjean was on super soft, was he not? I think we overtake anyway Wehrlein on the right hand side with DRS wide open. Pretty easy move, and I imagine, yep, there you go, Magnussen's also going to overtake him, and maybe even Grosjean under braking there. Just how poor the Sauber is, and also the McLaren car. Speaking of the McLaren car, we close up to Stoffel Van Dorn on the next lap into sector 2. It's going to be a bit tricky. We're going to have to hang back in the S section because we can't really make a move in here, just far too tight. But if we're patient enough on the exit of here, on this curbing, we'll get a good enough exit, and just like we did to Grosjean, we'll try and go down the inside, although I hope we can get the McLaren this time round, because Grosjean obviously managed to hang around the outside. This time Van Dorn unable to make up much of a fight. So now we're back up into P7 where we qualified. So far so good, looking to keep around our grid position. And so we come to lap 17 now. We can see it's Hamilton coming out of the pits. We do get some slipstream off him, trying to just get every little bit we can. Palmer is out of the race, but that won't really matter too much. I don't think he was really in this fight, to be fair to him. So we're up into P6 now, but obviously Hamilton, the man we just overtook, is going to be faster. He's already one pit stop ahead of us pretty much now, being in the Mercedes car. We do move to the outside of this corner because that will turn to the inside for the next one, but I lock up quite badly on the left front tyre, and to my surprise Hamilton actually sticks it right around the outside of us, and he gets just the downforce of that Mercedes is just ridiculous. So I was just taken aback at how easily he was able to just sweep around us. But of course, as I mentioned, he was one pit stop ahead of us, so there's really just no point fighting him. And so now we move later, though, into a fight that we can get into with the two Haas cars. Obviously, Haas really had a big resurgence in the last 4 rounds, so if we can keep them at bay today and annoy them, that'll work out for us as a team. So you can see we've got a bit of a Vettel-Verstappen situation as we go into Sector 2, because I moved a little bit late in the brake zone, and Grosjean makes a late decision to lunge it down the inside, and we're just about going to squeeze him out there and keep the position on the racing line, but that was very, very close. I had a little look to the left, and I saw Grosjean was coming at me quite rapidly there with a second bite of the cherry for the DRS, and so that could have been quite nasty, and an exact copycat of what happened at the Mexican Grand Prix in 2016. But now we move on to lap 19, and I've got a Haas sandwich on my hands here as Magnussen's on the left, Grosjean's on the right, and this is absolutely awesome. 3 wide into turn 1, but we'll outbrake both of them. Magnussen's lost it on the curbing there. Look at it. He's completely lost all sense of the car into turn 1, and he's lost so much time there. So it's only Grosjean that's able to keep up with me into the second little mini straight here with DRS. He'll have another bite of it. Obviously, I don't have anything because I don't have a car ahead of me, but you can see I just about keep Grosjean at bay. We've used Rich Mix down that back straight, down that main straight to keep ahead of them, but that was very, very awesome to see all 3 of us 3 wide for so long there. Obviously, the straight's so long that you can be that far back and you can gain that much time. So we move on to the next lap, though, lap 20, and again, Grosjean's coming at me now with Rich Mix and DRS. We're in Rich Mix momentarily, go back to standard as we go into the brake zone to turn 1. We've gone down the inside for the second part. Grosjean's actually barged his way through, so we're going to take a wider line, though, and that wide line actually allows us to get a lot faster, get the power down a lot faster than Grosjean could. So now we're getting squeezed out on the right, no place to go there, so we're going to try it down the inside now. It's going to be close, lock up on the left tyre, but we just about get it, and we have actually outbroken him completely there. I thought I would have had to give Grosjean the room on the inside, but we actually completely outdid him and just forced his hand a little bit with the lock-up even on the left front. So we're back up into what will be P5 now, and the 2 Haas teammates go side by side now into the S section. I think that will be to jockey over position. Looks like Grosjean will still keep that, meanwhile, on the top left, although as we move on now to the end of that lap, Magnussen's ahead of us, ahead of him, behind us on the top left there. So it looks like Magnussen may have won that battle in the S section, but we come in now for our final pit stop a little bit earlier than I maybe wanted to, but I could tell just with how rapidly the Haas guys were keeping up with me in the S section, and constantly trying to fight me on the main straight then, that I had to do something different. And obviously we saw from the first stint the undercut was so powerful that I thought we'll try it again. We're going to come out in pretty much no man's land, and actually we're going to come out on a set of super soft tyres. So I've decided, because we are pitting earlier, I can't go for that two set of ultra soft tyre strategy. I need to actually go to another set of super soft. So we're going ultra super. So the tyre wear has been a lot worse than I ever thought it could be, which is maybe from the practice programs, obviously we didn't get the full 50, I don't think it was, in the tyre wear test, so maybe I would have expected this, but I don't think the lower wings are helping the graining in Sector 2 here. And you can see we're getting held up now by a teammate who's been woefully slow in this race. So pretty much I think that's an indication at the moment I am out driving this car very much so in Mexico, because Sainz has really struggled here, and that surprises me really. It looks like the car, as a team, the car was working very well in qualifying. Obviously me and Sainz, there's only less than a tenth between us in qualifying, but then come the race, Sainz has been nowhere, and I've seemingly just been dragging the car up. So yeah, a bit of a head scratcher that one. We just lost pace into the race from qualifying. It can happen in Formula 1, but just unfortunately it happened to us in such a crucial point in the season where we're trying to keep ahead of Force India, Haas and Williams. But speaking about that, as we move on to lap 24, we're going to go up into what will be 7th place. So you can see Perez on the top left in 6th, and Grosjean is back behind us in 8th place. And you look at the mini-map, look at the gap we've got. So the undercut has worked even better here now for the second pit stop, because there have been a lot more laps between our 2 pit stops. So that was a good decision from us as a strategy decision to pit that early, but it will mean now as we move later into the Grand Prix that Grosjean is going to be a bit faster on less worn super soft tyres, but we are at least now on the same set of tyres now, all of us in this fight now. But it looks like the gap ahead to the cars, Perez, Massa, way too big, so I think we're fighting for a maximum of P7 today. It's going to be a bit of a big fight though, because here comes Grosjean once again. This straight's just so long, it really is just a pain in the arse really, to be honest, with DRS as well. And so Grosjean's going to get back past, so we're going to have to try and outbrake him once again, maybe to go round the outside into turn 1. He'll turn to the inside for turn 2 once again, but this time does Grosjean get it? Yes, he does. He actually manages to nip down the inside, so pretty impressive stuff there from the Frenchman to actually get his nose in there. So we have to put up a fight now as we go in towards Sector 2. He's going to have the advantage now because he has DRS as well. We're using the best of our abilities to keep up with him and outbrake him into this corner. A little bit of contact there as the corner tightens up, and then Grosjean parks the car into the next right-hander, so he's got that fair and square, and we have to give up that position for now. And now behind us you can see Esteban Ocon is now right up our chuff, so that's going to be another car that maybe causes us an issue, because the Force India obviously is even better than the Haas technically in a straight line. Although going to turn 1 of lap 27, Grosjean and myself both lock up there, so as you can see it's getting a little bit darker actually. The clouds are coming out, so maybe the track temperature is going to go down a little bit and maybe make things a little bit interesting in terms of maybe a few more mistakes for not only myself maybe, but also the AI hopefully. We've seen obviously back in the last race at USA, there's plenty of mistakes for the AI into turn 1, but we've got yellow flags now, and you can see on the top left Ocon's not there, and he's got an issue there. He's parked up, and it's now Daniel Ricciardo who finds himself behind us, and it's Esteban Ocon out of this Grand Prix. So actually that's quite lucky for me, because Ocon definitely would have given me a bit of a hassle and a hard time for the end of this race. So him being out of the Grand Prix is a very good blessing for us at the right time. But we do have a Red Bull car now behind us of Ricciardo. But meanwhile, onto lap 28 now, into turn 1. DRS wide open, trying to outbrake Grosjean as best we can. He still has it on the inside line. We'll take to the inside for what will be turn 3 eventually, and we'll just about get it there on the traction. Open the DRS now, get a second bite. That's going to help us out massively there. So we'll go down to lean mixture to try and save the fuel, because you can see it's constantly swapping from red to green. So we're a little bit on the bubble for the delta time. And meanwhile, Ricciardo pouncing on Grosjean there, wasting no time trying to get him, although the Frenchman puts up a really good fight against the Australian. So as we keep looking behind us, as we slide a little bit, Ricciardo just about hangs it, and he's going to still keep it into the S section. So will he have it down the inside? On the top left you can see Ricciardo is there, so I think he has got it down the inside there for that left-hander, and you would imagine obviously he would have the downforce. Although as we move on to lap 31, Magnussen and Grosjean are now back ahead of Ricciardo. So down the main straight, both the Haases must have overtaken the Australian. Obviously the Haas with the Ferrari power and the Red Bull with Renault power. But now onto lap 31 into sector 2, I've made a huge mistake on the lockup on the right tyre, and Magnussen's wasted no time to nip it down the inside and into the S section, get a hit with a waft of dirty air, and you can see I'm already losing time now to Magnussen, having to lift off quite early there, go down to 5th gear to even make it through that S section corner. And so now we're under major pressure, as you can see the tyres are starting to go off as well. So 5 laps to go now, we're being attacked by the second Haas. You can see close behind is Ricciardo, one of the Williams cars as well I think, and a Renault as well. So we've got a lot of cars maybe looking to steal our positions, and we're going to have to maybe form a little bit of a train as Grosjean does outbrake us. We go around the outside of him, but he's going to have the much better line just like before, so we go a little bit earlier on the brakes to try and get another little bit of a straighten up move to get the traction down a lot faster. We've both got DRS, because I actually technically got DRS off Magnussen there. So now we go side by side. We're on the outside for this corner as we go into sector 1. That will turn to the inside though, so here we go. We should be able to squeeze Grosjean now, but I have to leave him the room because he's got his front front wing alongside me. So we go side by side into the next higher double right-hander. He's got it. He's pinching me into the apex. And on the exit, oh, a bit of contact made. We've been shoved off there. And Lance Stroll now comes out of nowhere to the left-hand side, gets it down the inside. We have to cut in behind him. And so we've lost 2 places in the span of a corner and a little straight there. And so this has gone horribly wrong. And we're losing hand over fist now, in the pace of the car is just dropping off like a cliff now as our tyres really start to go off. For the first time really in this game, I'm feeling the tyre wear, to be honest. And so now into turn 1, Ricciardo goes round our outside. We're trying to defend to the inside, banging of tyres just like we did with Grosjean earlier on the Grand Prix. Ricciardo then brake checks us a little bit as we try to get a bit of a tighter turn in there, and we lose the position to Ricciardo, so we're down to P11 now. So really struggling for pace, and now Hulkenberg comes to the left hand side. We nearly squeeze him into the grass just like Verstappen did to Vettel in the real life Mexican Grand Prix. It's close up, and now Verstappen comes out of nowhere, speaking of him, to try and overtake Hulkenberg. So it's all kicking off now in this Grand Prix, and you can clearly see I'm getting very agitated and flustered now. I'm just losing positions left, right and centre as the pace of the Toro Rosso truly comes into play now. I'm just getting absolutely pounced and twatted now by all these cars pretty much, as Verstappen goes side by side with me in the S section. He gets the position, we lift off to try and get a better exit, and we do get a better exit. So we go very, very close, again touching and banging tyres with another Red Bull car. It's getting all very feisty as I'm trying my hardest to try and fight the P11, and oh, Verstappen loses the rear end there. I lose the rear end, and here I tried to let Bottas through under blue flags. Verstappen very cheekily uses that to overtake me here, so I was trying to let Valtteri through the entire time. So just like Monaco, Verstappen tries to get me with blue flags on Bottas once again, so the same situation happens there. So I break a bit too much, but now onto the main straight. This is our last lap of the Grand Prix because we've just been lapped by one of the race leaders there, so this is technically our last lap now in this Grand Prix, even though we're on lap 35. And you can see Nico Hulkenberg has actually managed to overtake Verstappen in a straight line. So the Renault Works team with good straight line speed now. He dives it down the inside. Proximity arrow has gone red there, but we'll squeeze him out into the second and third turn and keep P11 just about. And we move on to the final few corners. The confetti's out there in the stadium section, and we will hold this through for a very hard-earned P11. Really annoying Grand Prix, to be honest, because we lost so much time and pace at the end of that race. But if you look at where Sainz was that entire Grand Prix, I think honestly we were just out driving the car that entire race, and it was only a matter of time before the AI got us at the end there.
So another fantastic victory for the Silver Arrows. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result? And here are our podium drivers today after that excellent race. They've excelled here, as they so often do, and it's a well-deserved victory. Mercedes, then, are on top today.
So strong race there for Mercedes, obviously. Valtteri Bottas taking that win there at the Mexican Grand Prix. You can see on the race results, there we go. P11, unfortunately for us. Sergio Perez in a really, really high position with Force India working well. Also Massa in 5th and 6th. But you can see we moved down the order. Still pretty good to stay ahead of Verstappen, to be honest. I think I put in the best case I can to nick Verstappen's seat for Season 2 for Red Bull. I don't know. I'll be a little bit annoyed and peeved off if Red Bull don't offer me a seat. But I haven't heard anything yet, so we'll have to see. But Carlos Sainz down in P18 there, I think that was. So, yeah, definitely outdrove the car today and tried my best. But at the end of it, the points weren't on and my tyres went off the cliff, absolute cliff there. So, as much as I tried, just have to accept it. Sometimes you have those races where you're just not going to perform as well. The strategy doesn't work out and the car just is not there for you. But we do keep ahead in 4th place in the Constructors. So, really, it's not that bad, to be honest. Force India didn't gain too much on us, but they definitely did gain on Haas and Williams there, with Perez being so high. And we do earn a core competency for the pit stop efficiency there. So we're 2 out of 3 for that, along with the development, obviously, that we got before with simultaneous development. So at least that's some positive news there. And obviously getting the resource points for the race is always a given. So we've got those 2 upgrades, though, remember, coming for Brazil. So, yeah, it was a tough one this afternoon at Mexico, but with 2 upgrades coming for Brazil, hopefully that can be a really good one. And you can see the R&D has been a long slog there on those graphs, and not much has shifted there. So we're going to keep on pushing to the end of this season, trying to improve this Toro Rosso car and have a very strong last 2 races to this season with Brazil and Abu Dhabi coming up. So if you did enjoy that episode, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly 4-1 content. I've been Aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.